Hello, and welcome to a new and exciting edition of Simply Electric, featuring the all-new and cutting-edge Peugeot E-3008. We've already introduced it to you in a classic review with a detailed test drive report. Feel free to check the video description if you haven't seen the video, because today we want to build on that by driving with him onto the highway, exploring all it has to offer. We'll measure usage at 100, 120, 140, 160 km/h speeds. We'll do a charging check. Is it good for long distances? It comes in 73 and 98 kilowatt hours net battery sizes. Can you then go on a big trip with it? And of course, we really want to carefully check out how French travel comfort actually is. How do the assistance systems actually work? All these practical things that you need on a long journey. I'd say you should check if you already have your ticket for our highway drive by simply seeing if you're already part of the electric drivers community. We'd be thrilled if you supported us with a subscription. That way you won't miss our future videos. We initially kicked things off with the Peugeot E-3008, heading to our well-known test route on the A20 motorway, which we generally take driving northwards towards the familiar destination of Greifswald-Strahl. We are here coming from New Brandenburg, and we have thick clouds overhead in the sky, but it isn't starting to rain yet, except for a few drops now and then. Outside temperature is a mild 22 degrees.
Pleasant for the summer.
Yes, midsummer is still kind of waiting to show up in July. And what about the tires, Stefan, on alloy rims?
235s with 50 thickness on 20-inch alloy wheels, giving a stylish look.
Yes, summer tires from Michelin, specifically designed for electric cars. We drive in eco mode whenever it's possible, of course. We are driving with an adaptive cruise control. And we have the air conditioning, I think, set to 21 degrees here. We usually always have that. And yes, you see the A20 is approaching. We'll start with the first consumption runs shortly. What I completely forgot to ask, what kind of engine do we actually have? Because many of you might not have even watched the review with the factory.
I don't think so either.
It's definitely linked again in the video description. And that's basically the foundational knowledge about this car that one should have when watching this video. So we have the E-3008 with the front motor, 157 kilowatt, 213 horsepower, 345 Newton meters of torque, front wheel drive, combined with a 73 kilowatt hour battery pack. It should reach a top speed of 170 km/h. Let's give it a try. And yeah, it didn't manage the 0 to 100 km/h acceleration in 8.7, 8.8 seconds. Let's hope he manages to reach the speed of 170 km/h, of course. Are you ready for this? Yes?
Sir.
I've set the adaptive cruise control to 100 km/h. Now let's reset the trip computer, and together we will find out what the Peugeot E-3008 consumes over the next 20 kilometers, while maintaining a consistent average speed of exactly 100 km/h throughout the entire test. This will give us a good idea of its efficiency. We want to bridge the time until the first consumption value with you, giving us an opportunity to talk again about the E-3008. There are two equipment variants here, Allure and GT at the moment. It starting at just over 48,000 euros with the Allure. We're driving the GT, which starts at just over 53,000 euros, also including a leather package and the full assistance package. Yes, what does the full assistance package mean? We have the adaptive cruise control, which we have set to 100 km/h here. We have a steering assistant, a lane keeping assistant, and an adaptive function that recognizes traffic signs and consistently shows the speed. Once it displays the updated speed, I confirm it with the OK button on the steering wheel. The system then adjusts the speed accordingly. This process ensures the driver is always aware and in control of the speed adjustments being made.
It's a bit complicated. It can be easier.
So if we now discuss the logic of the worst case scenario, we're speeding at full throttle, 170 km/h towards a 100 km/h sign until it takes over. If we confirm it with OK, he slowed the car down. It could have happened that we definitely get a photo sent home, right?
Yeah, or once you've gotten through the day construction site.
And I really wish, my dear friends over at Peugeot, that you would work diligently on addressing that particular issue. A, maybe via an over-the-air update, and B, in functionality. Why confirm if I'm already expected to drive that speed? It's redundant and needs redesigning for a smoother, more intuitive experience. Actually, it should be the other way around, with him taking over the speed so I can drive more smoothly and safely. Drive at the maximum permissible speed, right? And if I were a stubborn only child, wanting to rebel because I believe I'm the chain of command, I could still say, okay, no, I don't want to. So doesn't it actually imply that we first need to get to the point where people essentially don't get a ticket, right?
This is primarily for everyone, I believe.
And if we could successfully gain some level of predictiveness from this, manual adaptability.
Then we'd be happy.
So I say alias VW Group BMW. Mercedes, that we say, okay, we have navigation data with speed limits. We have traffic sign recognition that maybe doesn't recognize the signs at 50 or 100 meters, but maybe further. Then the advantage is we don't just react at the sign, pushing, not pushing, whatever. But that basically he drives at the speed on the sign, right? Yeah. How cool would that be?
If we really wish.
That it should take hold. And in the end, Ollie, this isn't about wishful thinking with electric driving, but rather the kind of technology that other manufacturers in a similar price range are already offering in 2024.
Yes, what reverse state art is?
Yeah, so not that some people write again, we're in wishful debates here. We have determined an initial consumption value, specifically after 21 kilometers and an average speed of 94 kilometers h. Even though it was always set to 100, we have here a consumption value of 14.2 kilowatt hours. Now it's jumped to 14.1. Per 100 kilometers consumption, that's obviously for an SUV, which weighs over 2 tons and apparently doesn't have the best drag coefficient. But man, a brilliant value here at 21 degrees on the highway. Yes, that's really good so that it doesn't go any further. I have now set the adaptive cruise control to 120 km/h. We want to reset the trip computer with you guys. You can see it here, 120, but it also takes a few thoughtful seconds to somehow adjust. So it's kind of sluggish, this whole system. Yeah.
It somehow feels like that indeed.
So we are here in the hyper smooth mode.
Yeah, just make sure not to fall asleep.
And I would also like to say something about your comments. Yes, you can do such consumption runs, 20 kilometers in one direction and 20 kilometers in the other direction. You can divide that by 2. You can make scientific values here. Sometimes it's 21 degrees. Then we shot the Genesis yesterday, I think at 27 degrees. Last week we shot the Renault Scenic at 25 degrees. So what I'm getting at is you're right about everything. I don't want to contradict that either. The purpose of our consumption drives is basically the logic, hey, we get into the electric car that interests you. Sometimes we'll drive around 20 kilometers at a certain temperature on a relatively similar route because we always drive this same route and always the same sections on the route and show you what the different cars consume. You can then evaluate for yourselves, is this suitable for me or does it not suit me at all? Is it topographic, wind, weather? I am unsure if the weights of my driver and Stefan's passenger are optimally balanced, considering other factors. That's your decision to make. We're not here to do test drives, hence it's called a fuel consumption drive, to give you useful reference values. That's to explain why we're doing it this way, so stubbornly and inflexibly. I find all your suggestions valid and truly appreciate the effort you've put in to share your thoughts with us. But they just don't quite fit the format properly, like when we started with the consumer warnings about 3 years ago, I believe. So now just imagine we've got, I don't know, in the tables by now it feels like around 50 or 60 subjects, I don't know. Oh.
If that's enough.
Exactly. If we were to change the system now, implement your advice, that doesn't mean we're being stubborn, just honest, but it would mean shredding previous values and disregarding the work and principles we've upheld. But for those of you who are simply interested in a benchmark, a consumption value, then that won't really help you. Somehow we're in this whirlpool where we just end up saying you're right about everything. If this isn't the right format for you, maybe check another channel to see if you prefer it there. But then we encounter this specific logic. And there's still one more thing. If you say, hey, let's spontaneously drive to Lake Garda today and head south, where it's topographically more uphill than downhill, you'll see a distinct change in the landscape, right? Yes. Plus a few low mountain ranges where it goes up and down. Then you will never reach the test value that is topographically balanced in all directions without wind and weather, right? In the end, it's about an everyday consumption value, just as a benchmark. So you get a sense of whether it uses a lot, uses a little, whether it fits my driving habits. Can I convert that to the kilowatt hours of the battery? I just wanted to get that off my chest. So you guys kind of understand why we're doing it this way and why we think like that. Share your opinion in the comments below. It's time to start our next topic. Yes, let's dig into it together and see what we discover.
We got it.
We drove 21 kilometers continuously at 120 km/h. The onboard computer shows 114 km/h, and we had a consumption of 19.6 km per 100 kilometers.
Wow, still under 20? That's really quite impressive to see.
For an SUV like this, I think okay.
Well, I expected a bit more, especially since we were at 100, at 14, around that.
I believe we'll be hitting 140 pretty soon. We've set the adaptive cruise control to a speed of 140 km/h. I'm resetting the onboard computer for you, and we'll see over the next 20 kilometers what it consumes at an average speed of 140 km/h. This should indicate the car's efficiency.
Cool sound.
Well, considering this isn't a high-profile system, I find the sound quite snappy. The audio quality is really surprising for something not so well known.
Nice room, sure.
Check it. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be some well-known provider to create a good sound system. Just look at Tesla. They manage it too.
Yeah, those store brands aren't so bad sometimes.
Yes, we have also already learned about the next consumption value with you, so to speak. So we've now driven about 20 kilometers at 134 kilometers per hour according to the onboard computer, now showing 21 kilometers continuously at 140 kilometers per hour on the speedometer with a consumption of 26.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, substantial for this vehicle.
That's all right, I'd have to say with confidence.
Yes, but you can clearly observe with SUVs, quite similar to the case with the Renault Scenic, that we then grow exponentially stronger than with a flat, supposedly better aerodynamic car, which was not expected initially. Yes.
Already.
So it meets the factory spec, right?
174.
I think it's almost sufficient in an SUV, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, that's definitely enough. And I don't even want to know what the consumption would be if you were driving continuously at 174 kilometers h or even 175 right now. We will definitely measure the 160 kilometer h together with all of you again in a bit. But I must say, it's definitely nice that we can also drive here quickly with such a Peugeot E-3008, right? Right. If it were like 200 km/h, that'd be really cool somehow, don't you think?
Yeah, normally, but it's always just like that, right?
Well, there are many who, on their way home in the evening or at night, have a short stretch of highway where they just want to get home after a hard, long day at work. And that does make a difference, of course, whether you're going 175 with ecology in mind or speeding up to 205. I don't really know what to make of the 157 kilo 213 HP. We're in sport mode, 3 amp 45 Newton meters, and I'll do a kick down because it's clear here. 130, 140, 150, 160, 170. Yeah, we're nearly reaching 175 now. So it's still just not performing well enough, you know? I mean, we're pushing the car and it's like it really struggles to gain that final bit of speed we need.
No, that's not him.
Well, some of you may be drawn to electromobility, an evolving field that promises to revolutionize our transportation systems. To have that punchy feeling, honestly, that's the E-3008. It's like a cruiser, dignified, super comfortable, very pleasant, with an overall smooth, luxurious drive. We'll delve into that later in the comfort section, but such a versatile tool that gets things done efficiently and also manages many tasks, providing a well-rounded experience. Cozy he is not.
Maybe at that point we might even consider getting the all-wheel drive.
Chapeau Peugeot, 175 km/h. Distance control cruise works perfectly. Lane assist functions, lane keeping assist works effectively. And if I let go of the steering wheel here, it still stays in the center of the lane, even in this slight curve. Seriously, Stellantis Peugeot, it's really amazing and exciting to see how you guys are evolving and progressing. And just like with you guys, a little bit is taken along because we still remember with the older models, it just didn't work. It didn't work.
Oh.
One should also give praise when something works. Or does that already seem a bit fanboyish, overly rosy-like? Looking through rose-tinted glasses. P glasses.
T glasses?
PT. Epipeted. PT. We're making a U-turn, and we also want to check with you if the smooth suspension can handle some really sporty genes. By doing so, we'll take an exaggeratedly fast on-ramp to the highway and see how it performs under those circumstances. Here, around 70. He does it quite well, doesn't he? Yeah, he holds up well.
Remain steady.
We come out here going at 100 km/h, 120 km/h. I'm absolutely flooring it in eco mode despite everything. 140 km/h, it's barely enough to keep the Opel visible in the rear view mirror. And now we really want to try at 160 km/h, resetting the trip computer for the next 20 km to see how performance and fuel efficiency are affected over this distance. What does the E-3008 consume? When driving an average of 160 km/h on the speedometer, we want to enter a route into the navigation system with you. Unfortunately, we don't have the option to show you by voice because somehow the voice input isn't working. So we'll do this manually here. We've just saved Munich in the system so you can see that you can simply drive without route planning or with route planning options, whatever suits your needs or preferences. Route planning basically means charge planning, and also of course with the corresponding charge planning involved. I have to say Peugeot has also significantly evolved because until now we didn't have any charging planning at all in Peugeot. I don't remember that at all, right?
Not at all, we really didn't.
There must have been an update now. I think it's a really great thing that you can just say, I just want to drive, because many of you are saying, well, you know, driving is what I enjoy doing the most. Then I look for the charging station spontaneously on the go, depending on battery level and mood and restroom break, coffee, lunch, whatever. Or I want to be entirely planned out in the same way that the system can do it here. So big thumbs up that this is now possible and that the driver also has the appropriate range of selection options available right here, which is quite helpful. We have the next consumption value to show you. We drove consistently at 100 miles per hour the entire time. That's equivalent to about 154 km/h on the onboard computer. We've covered 21 kilometers so far with a consumption rate of 30.5 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers, which is quite efficient. Even then, he's still at the low end for an SUV.
Yes, we've also experienced it quite differently with a front four.
Exactly, with our Swedish friends. So I have to say, it really fits perfectly. Wouldn't you agree with this statement? I think so too. I'd say you should actually go ahead and compare the observed values that are listed in the tables with those of the other tested subjects. And then I'm really curious about your opinion on how you assess the consumption levels of the Peugeot E-3008. Let's discuss in detail the travel comfort we can expect here in the Peugeot E-3008. Yes, Stefan, how exactly does your barometer feel while driving on the highway for an extended period? What do you think? Here comes a nice heavy rain shower right here in beautiful Mecklenburg. Yeah, somehow the weather conditions are actually kind of steadily increasing more and more dramatically over time, right?
Right now it's truly awful. You don't really get a real summer anymore. Just like yesterday, you end up facing a severe and unexpected storm. That was really bad with the storm and the tree falling and everything. This isn't summer anymore, sorry.
Back to travel comfort.
Yep.
What's your barometer saying?
It's actually still very comfortable here. Nice lateral support, very comfy, even on long distances, so nothing hurts at all. With the nice smooth suspension, you don't feel any bumps. It doesn't jolt your back. You've got these great seats here. What were they called? Something with back, right?
Association for a Healthy Back, AGR or something?
Exactly, that's newfangled for me. I'm not familiar with it, but I think it's awesome.
Has he ever driven an Opel before?
Yes, but back then, it wasn't so active.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I can actually just confirm that it is indeed very, very smooth and pleasant to use. So, it manages very gently over bumps, uneven surfaces extending up to potholes, as well as manhole covers on rural and village roads. I think Peugeot struck a great compromise because we could confidently take the fast on-ramp without it getting squishy or pushing too much over the front axle, maintaining solid control throughout. Then could happen. So the range is between being extremely comfortable, which this Peugeot can be, but also having a decent grip, providing that feeling of security and stability on the road. That you stick to the road surface here, yes. Also, with the low center of gravity of the battery pack, it really comes into play quite brilliantly here. Honestly, I can't recall ever cruising so comfortably in this price range with a vehicle that handles so smoothly and provides such a genuinely pleasant drive. So if I compare it to our Kia EV6, which we really like a lot, it's kind of like a bouncing bunny by comparison, hopping all over the place and feeling jumpy on the road.
It's tougher in comparison?
Yes. What just came to my mind about the weather, because it's so changeable, we keep circling back to man-made climate change. So again, I don't want to dispute that at all. I don't want to sugarcoat it or somehow slander it. But I find it kind of interesting to look at it more closely and deeply from a detailed chronological perspective. Because initially we had those incredibly dry summers, the extreme droughts, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we were explained human-caused climate change. Correct. Now, in principle, we had a summer that was not quite as hot, which can somehow also be attributed to human-caused climate change. In between, we had those ultra-hot summers, remember? Where then, I don't know, for what felt like 2 months, we had tropical conditions here. Yes, it was the man-made climate change, right? Of course.
Yes.
And now we have storms, heavy rainfall, and flooding, all from human activities like deforestation and pollution, climate change. So in fact, it's really, without veering this into an infantile, ridiculous, or polemical direction, but essentially everything is man-made, don't you think? Climate change, right?
I'll just go ahead and say the usual way is often considered wrong.
So best to stay on the couch and just weigh the electric bag.
Blinds down and just keep it running on a continuous and never-ending repeat loop.
What Peugeot also does really well is that you can choose the battery level during a charging stop, so you can go to 10% here, or if you're a bit braver and more experienced, just like we might set it to 5%, the same applies to the destination. I find it practical if you can also enter a higher value, like 30%, because I usually don't charge at the destination during my business trips, but yes. I really like to charge quickly at Ionity and then basically drive away from my appointment to the nearest Ionity station to get a full pull energy into the battery. And not all manufacturers offer this variability. That's why I genuinely believe we ought to give quite a bit of credit to Peugeot here for their effort. But somehow, during the ride at around 160, it's not quite as comfortable. So somehow, maybe not unfortunately, I just can't stop raving about it. There you have it. We always enter the charging station as the destination so that the car has a chance to precondition itself. Yes! That's what makes Peugeot awesome. Look, it shows real-time traffic data. That's nothing new, but it also shows you that we now have to do another loop in order to get down to somewhere around exactly 10% battery level or so. It even shows you the battery level it will arrive with at the charging station or destination. Not all systems can do that.
No, they do it really well. They've significantly improved over time.
Not that we shift from being a rose-red Tesla fanboy to gradually becoming a devoted Peugeot Blue P fanboy over time.
So I think, like the bed linens with the Peugeot logo, cuddling up nicely to the lion, I can see us.
Well, you know, I'm definitely a Leo.
Look, that would fit.
Exactly. And the E-3008 is coming soon. So an even bigger model because I need some space for my 1.85 meters and 99.9 kilograms. So who knows, maybe the next electric car will be a Peugeot.
That would be hot.
We've just arrived at the Demenerland rest stop. A woman is joyfully playing with her dog right on the street. It's a delightful sight. Isn't particularly healthy in the long run, I believe. And at this exact point in time, we want to talk to you about doing the charging check together from 10 to 80% state of charge to see how it performs. Ionity is convenient, and I recommend it because you'll always get the maximum power at each station, up to 350 kilowatts for quick and efficient charging, making your trips much easier. Whereas the Peugeot, I believe, can manage 160 kilowatts peak max. So the charging stations must definitely be the right dimension to handle that power efficiently and safely. With 10% state of charge, we arrived here at Ionity, and it immediately starts building up a proper charging peak. Takes it easy, comfortably beyond 100 kV. Yeah, I've read the peak is 160 kilowatt, which is quite impressive, considering how fast this system can recharge the battery. He almost achieves it here. I have to say, it's nice. He goes straight up to over 150 kilowatts, now stays around 150 kilowatt. That would, of course, be absolutely great if Peugeot could create a charging plateau here that would also consistently and reliably depict extremely high charge peaks. Yes, and we also permanently represent this, by the way. Free charging opportunities through InCharge's complimentary kilometers. InCharge is an app and available online where you can earn bonuses through affiliate links and online shopping. Then you receive additional free kilometers. You can also rate those charging stations. Additionally, you can participate in challenges to earn free charging. Stefan, how much have we achieved so far?
Over 40,000.
Right, we've already driven over 40,000 kilometers for free with it so far. If you're interested in the system, feel free to check out the video description. Included a link to In Charge for you all. We've hit almost a 25% success rate. He's charging here with 157 kilowatt. We probably won't see the 160, Stefan, right?
I still believe in it.
Very good. Yeah, 4 minutes are up. We've added a good 10 kilowatt hours. Well, it looks pretty cheerful already that it doesn't go over 150 kilos, which is great because we are being more efficient than expected. Yes, and then it kind of goes down again. We've had quite a few participants like that, haven't we?
No.
Charging time is always a good opportunity to show you the car from the outside again if you haven't seen the review with the driving report yet. As I said, the link is in the video description. Peugeot created a beautiful, modern, futuristic design with the E-3008, especially with the lion so prominently positioned at the front, where I think it might look refreshingly different from mainstream European car designs, standing out with its fresh and innovative aesthetic. It comes with LED headlights, optionally even matrix LED headlights if you prefer, and here the daytime running lights, which almost resemble fierce bear claws, but it's probably more accurate to say they look like lion claws instead. We have it here in the GT trim, where it also comes with very nice alloy wheels, specifically in the dimension of 20 inches on 235 50 R20 Michelin tires. I must say that's a really nice and interesting form of aerification, as it looks pleasantly different from what we usually see. Overall, we've got a really nice look here, kind of black glossy mixed with a sort of white metallic, and I actually kind of like it. The only thing I don't like so much is that we probably have the largest charging flap of all electric cars here on board. That really does kind of look like half a refrigerator door.
We were fortunate that we didn't have to run the cable over the hatch.
And what would be great, Peugeot, is if you opened it upwards instead of to the side, because then you could reach the charging port with the cable from any direction, making it more convenient and user-friendly. Yes, otherwise we also have a rather nice rear spoiler, which is not as oversized as we know it from other vehicles, but rather nice and flat. We have a nice trailing edge and three-dimensional design elements, beautiful taillights with a high-performance design. What I also really like about Peugeot is that all around the car, it doesn't have that cheap van plastic typical of an SUV. But everything is nicely painted in glossy black, I mean delivery van plastic over there in the ID4. Stefan, can you zoom in on the car for me a bit? It doesn't look very nice now, and over time it tends to fade even more, which isn't great at all. When it's still dirty, it has this shiny black look, making a striking difference. Much nicer. Yes, if you need some extra space in the trunk, you will find as much as 520 liters of trunk volume, even with this vehicle length of 4.54 meters. Also very nice with the spacious double loading floor, where you also have the option to lower the loading floor by one level. So about 8 to 10 centimeters, where you can fold down 20% in the middle, and then another 40% on each side, so you can probably expand your loading volume to a good 1,400 liters. Yeah, we didn't find the roof load, but there's an optional trailer hitch with a 1.25 ton towing capacity, making it versatile for various needs. Stefan, now we had to come around to the charging station because everything here is done briskly in one take. We've already reached 50% in 13 minutes, charging nearly 30 kilowatt hours, which is exceptionally efficient. He's still charging at 116 kilovolts. I think that's a pretty solid baseline here with the 400 volt technology. So that makes us a little cautious, but optimistic that we'll get good charging times from 10 to 80 as well, right? Yes? Yes, at 53%, it dropped to 89 kilovolt. Now at over 60%, it's down to 73 kilowatt. I'm starting to get a bit short of breath already. Yes, yes.
Yes.
We've been here for about 20 minutes and have already added 39 kilowatt to the car. Maybe it would be even better if the bigger battery did the same thing. The 98 kilowatt hour net battery. Then maybe even always just charge it up to 60%. We've already done some of that work, even with the EQS. The Nimthalken shot up to 60% in just 18 short minutes, and after that it got a bit choppier in its performance. So you need to weigh for yourself with all these different charging curves, whether it always truly makes sense to charge from 10 to 80% based on the time per kilometer, or if it's actually more efficient to stop sooner. I think we noticed that with the Volvo as well. Even with the new X30, if you charge it to around 69, 70%, you can get going a bit quicker.
Then it really starts to drag.
I'm genuinely doing this just for you to keep showing you all of this important stuff right here. Because normally, Stefan, when I go under 50 kilowatt, I immediately find myself at the limit button, isn't that right? Yes, because we have now reached 80%. After 38 minutes, we've recharged almost 57 kilowatt hours. And he's been fiddling around under $50 for quite some time now. I have to say, $50 kilo is really kind of a pain threshold for me because it kind of hurts my soul a little bit every time I see it. We have more and more electric cars. During peak times like holidays, we sometimes experience shortages and waiting times at charging stations. And then you have a Peugeot, which is actually a cool car with decent efficiency. And then it just kind of peters out towards the end. That's no fun at all. So that is really bitter, Peugeot. I really feel quite sorry for this truly amazing car that it ultimately ends up like this. And 38 minutes is just not up to date in my eyes. Because even the Volkswagen Group, which you all rightly criticized and I did too, they were also at 35, 36 minutes, but managed to significantly bring it down to well under 28 minutes through over-the-air updates. And that's just what I expect when a car comes out fresh in 2024, that we have a 400-volt system that somehow times 26, 28 minutes, because let's be honest, in that price range, we can also get a Kia EV6, we can also get a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or 6. So from that particular point of view, these are 800-volt systems that can reach 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes. So from my perspective, Peugeot definitely needs to make some really significant improvements. So slowly but surely, we're coming to the conclusion of the Peugeot E-3008. We want to bring together the experiences from the review, the test drive, and today's insights from the consumption path and the charging check. And you really have to say that Peugeot has built a very solid electric car. What it shares the platform with is a plug-in hybrid and a mild hybrid. So it is also a construction type where various different types of drive forms come together in harmony. And for that, I must say it turned out pretty well.
Absolutely, above all, you can just tell that Peugeot has significantly evolved compared to the E-208 and 2008.
Especially when it comes to infotainment, assistance systems, and of course it's also a higher vehicle class. However, there are also several points of criticism, such as, in my opinion, relatively more confined conditions in the rear area. You also have to be clear about this. That there isn't exactly a lot of space in the second row now. But we're talking about a 4.54 meter long SUV here. For that, we have a large trunk with 520 liters. We have here super comfortable AGR, Healthy Back Association, I believe it's called, seats, which offer both seat heating and seat ventilation. I kind of missed the massage function, but it's not really necessary in this class of vehicles. We have quite a decent efficiency for a vehicle of this particular size and mass. We weigh over 2 tons here. And actually achieved quite decent consumption values for an SUV, Co-V.
Absolutely, that really surprised me at the beginning.
What I find lacking in the vehicle is a bit of power. I mean, the 157 kg, 213 HP, and 345 Nm do serve for moving around, but more for cruising, rolling, and just keeping pace with traffic. So what electromobility offers is putting the cards on the table and experiencing what it can achieve. Then you'd probably have to go for all-wheel drive, I think, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yes.
And what totally disappoints me is still the loading performance. I have to harp on about it a bit because you're starting here with 48,000 euros GT exhibitions. What we have, 53,000 starts plus extras. You quickly end up at a full load at 60K. I expect that in 2024, it'll charge in about 25 to 28 minutes. Yeah.
And not like how we had to wait here for a frustrating 38 minutes today.
Exactly.
Wasn't so nice. Actually, like, most can do it by now also over the air, brought the updates and did it. Maybe Peugeot will add something.
We wish that for the car, especially with the 98 kilowatt-hour net capacity variant coming this fall, as it could improve the car's range and appeal to more consumers. For many, it wouldn't just be a nice daily driver in the city due to its compact size, but also a car you can utilize well on long trips, where you can have delightful, achieving reasonable ranges, and where you don't even have to discuss whether it's the first or the second car, because it could then be the main car for many.
Absolutely. Even on those long trips, you're quite comfortable here, as I mentioned earlier.
That's exactly why we can only wholeheartedly recommend that you visit your preferred local Peugeot dealer right away. We have the Böttcher car dealership in Neubrandenburg. They also have locations in Berlin and many other places where they will be offering the car for test drives. And take a closer look for yourselves to truly determine if what we've shown you in the 2 very informative videos fits well into your daily routines and everyday life scenarios. We're back at Böttcher car dealership, and unfortunately, we already have to say goodbye to the Peugeot E-3008. a vehicle we've enjoyed reviewing and sharing our experiences with you so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up. Please check if you're already part of the Intro Electric community. If not, we'd be happy if you support us with a subscription, and we'll see each other again in one of the next videos. Thank you for watching, stay healthy, and see you soon. Ollie, hey Stefan? Yeah. I mean, you could also enjoy an after-work drink here in the evening, right? Absolutely.
It won't fall. Do you also have a small stopper on the edge?
You can also place a bar stool next to it with a small rubber mat.
Sure, it's fine.
So it's really multifunctional and can even do vehicle to load, I think. Yeah.
Very good.